Zenthony Mentano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and we are here. We are finally here at our last video for 2025 List Week. It's the best albums of 2025. Yep, these are my favorite albums of the year. All 50 of them. Gonna list them all out, move through the first half of the list quickly, the second half less so. Let's go ahead and do it. Number 50, Earl Sweatshirt, Live, Laugh, Love. 49, Horror, with their latest Tomorrow We Escape. Cool rap, metal, punk fusion there. At 48, we are going to go with Bon Iver, SABLE, fABLE. And following that one, we have Horsegirl, Phonetics On and On, a really wiry and post-punky indie rock record with a lot of cute vocals and great peppy grooves. At 46, we are doing The Weeknd with Hurry Up Tomorrow. And at 45, it is the Chat Pile and Hayden Pedigo crossover collab, In the Earth Again. Lots of beautiful guitars and sad tunes, sludgy riffs all over that one. After that, at 44, we are going to do Jid with God Does Like Ugly, and then next at 43, Mac Miller with Balloonerism, his very quality posthumous project from around the Faces era with a lot of great production. At 42, we are going with singer-songwriter Hannah Francis, nested in Tangles, a beautiful folksy and dusty record there. And then at 41, Aesop Rock, Black Hole Superette. Closing up the 40s, we have Tyler, the Creator, with Don't Tap the Glass. Tyler giving us a little bit more of a pop and dance excursion on this one, but still quality, still fun. Some good summer jams on that one. And then after that, 39, De La Soul with Cabin in the Sky, with the group reflecting on mortality and life itself in a series of super theatrical creative songs. At 38, it is Maruja's new album, which is not, their first record, but the first record they've come through with since kind of breaking out in the indie scene. And I would say with this project, they definitely lived up to the hype with a lot of winding, thrilling, socially conscious tunes that are just absolutely fiery. At 37, we have Danny Brown's latest, Stardust, which is wild, experimental, hyperpop flavored, noisy, chaotic. Definitely one of the most challenging records to come out of the hip hop scene this year. And you can tell from how many who were just like not prepared for it at all. A lot of split opinions on this album, but I myself think it's one of Danny's most daring. At number 36, we are going with Bad Bunny's latest, Mas FOToS. And at 35, it is one of Deerhoof's most instrumentally ambitious projects to date. That is Noble and Godlike in Ruin. Really reflecting on the dystopia of our time there. Indie veterans, gotta respect them. At 34, we have Swedish garage punk phenoms The Hives with The Hives Forever, Forever the Hives, a project that really goes back to their old ferocity, their old sound, and just shows how much gas they have left in the tank, really celebrating the staying power of the band. At 33, I want to make sure I don't say this one incorrectly, Infinity Knives and Brian Ennell's A City Drowned in God's Black Tears. Definitely one of the most unpredictable, wild, versatile projects to come out of the hip-hop scene this year. From spacious doom folk to the occasional Latin vibe, this album really is truly all over the map and is packed with verses, bars, and lyrics that honestly, despite the truth to them, I feel like most artists are afraid to say it. At 32, we are going with Navy Blue, The Sword, and The Soaring. Navy's most contemplative and well put together album yet, for sure. I guess I would argue the strongest release to come out of the abstract hip-hop scene this year. And at 31, it is 106 Point Never with Tranquilizer. One-of-a-kind producer Daniel Lopatin continues to deliver just mind-bending, dimension-defying collage pieces and progressive electronic works that are unlike any other out there. At 30, we are going with FKA Twigs, EUSEXUA, the original track list of that record, because obviously we did get like another album in this series and an updated version of the project too. It's a very mystifying and clubby, low-key art pop release with a lot of great dance vibes. Little all over the place though at points, as is this next record, but it's too a great one. 29, Agriculture, The Spiritual Sound. One of the most visceral and thrilling black metal albums I've heard this year, but at its core, you have a lot of interesting themes around spirituality and the like, as well as some mind-blowing guitar solos too. Following this, 28, it is Snooper. We are snooping into their new worldwide album, which if you're looking for some very zany, colorful, lo-fi, noisy, chaotic egg punk, or just synth punk, post-punk, if you want to call it that, you've got to give this one a spin. And it's so short, it's not going to take up too much of your time. It's a very bite-sized bit of fun. 27, we are going with Miley Cyrus, Something Beautiful. My favorite record I think she has ever put out, point blank, period. The ambition and the execution are something to behold. And at 26, it is Honningbarna with Soft Spot. These Norwegian rock, punk, garage veterans are back with a new record that is so fresh, so crisp, so noisy, so exciting. Handily one of the most badass rock albums of 2025. It's crazy these guys have been around for as long as they have, and this is like the first I'm hearing of them. But going back, listening to their old stuff, listening again to this project is as good a place as any to start. So if you're playing catch up like me and you enjoy bands such as The Refused and The Hives, who I mentioned earlier, you're gonna dig on this thing. Okay, moving into the upper half of the list, 25, we are going to go with Deafheaven, Lonely People with Power. One of the best black metal releases of the year, highly conceptual, super revealing, and sometimes tragic lyrics. And in my opinion, this is the group's best record since their classic Sunbather, and I really feel like after all these years, they really nailed down the very difficult balance and combination of black metal and I would say more experimental or progressive forms of rock and rock structures, and also, you know, indie and a little shoegaze too. The sounds that to me historically have not always come together well, and again, I do think there were some growing pains on recent albums from the band where they were trying to do a little bit of all of that and having a tough time of making it all work. But finally on Lonely People with Power, it really does, and it comes together under some great lyrical themes, some great consistent lyrical themes. Next, going on to 24, we are going to go with Natalia Lafourcade, Cancionera. This Mexican singer and songwriter has been on such a creative and incredible run over the past few years. And while I wouldn't say this album is reinventing the wheel for her or anything, or, you know, feeling like it's a new frontier, the writing and the vocal performances per usual are like some of the best out there today. And if there is anything that makes this album special, it's that all of these different Latin folk sounds are executed with these live-to-tape performances, which give these songs just a very nice, organic, in-the-moment feel that, honestly, when I'm hearing some of the best material on this thing, it just feels like time stops. I'm just lost in the moment. At number 23, we are going to give it to Tropical Fuckstorm, Fairyland Codex. Super nasty, super dystopian, experimental rock record from this Australian band, who have come through with one of their best crops of songs in a while. As the world grows darker, Tropical Fuckstorm grows bolder. At number 22, Brazil stand-up, it's Gaby Amarantos, Rock Doido. Just an insane, crazy, non-stop run of reggaeton cuts, of Brazilian funk cuts, of pop cuts and dance cuts, everything. You're getting a little bit of it all with some super bold vocals to boot on a record that is formatted like you're listening to this really thrilling, exciting DJ set, like the best Brazilian block party ever. That's what this one sounds like. At 21, we are going to go with Quedeca's Beautiful, Vanisher, Horizon Scraper. Ben Lasky really comes through with his best collection of songs and productions to date. Absolutely beautiful Baroque arrangements, cool textured beats, heavily manipulated but kind of ghostly lead vocals. It is a record that does ask a lot of the listener, but what a narrative, what a progression, what a finish. A record that's really been getting a lot of praise this year, and it's well deserved. After this, at 20, we are going with Annahstasia's Tether. Definitely one of the most beautiful new voices to come out of the singer-songwriter sphere this year. Just the vibrato, the depth, the volume, with some great guitar work to boot. As good as this record is, I have a feeling that Annahstasia is just getting started. At number 19, I'm going to go with my favorite Tyler Childers record, Snipe Hunter. Tyler really wowed me on this one, not just because he, stuck to his country roots and gave us a lot of good quality songwriting, but I think he really fired the performances up on this record with some really great vocals, some rock guitars here and there, and then eventually cooled it down with these kind of spiritual tracks that speak very conceptually and lovingly about the Hindu religion. But yeah, very interesting, unique album, and one of the best of country this year. At 18, I'm going to go with Nina Geraci, I Love My Computer. Award winner Nina Geraci, I will say. And this album most definitely deserves the accolades it has been getting, because what a creative, fun, personal EDM record with fun progressions, great grooves, relatable storytelling, and a really cool flow from track to track as well. At number 17, we are going to go with Sumac and Moormother, the film. Sumac's sludgy, dystopian, crushing riffs, and Moormother's very foreboding poetry, and I would say also unnerving vocal performances marry much better than you might think they do on paper, making for one of the darkest loud rock listens you can have in 2025. At number 16, shout out to Polish artist Miffle for her Goodbye World record, an absolutely stunning and entrancing tape music album with a lot of wintry guitar and string passages that are manipulated beyond recognition through all of these, different processes, working with the tape and all that, coming through with a lot of interesting drones and distortion passages. Really a stellar headphone listen right there. At number 15, we are going with Black Country New Road, Forever Howlong. Love how the band revamped things on this project with a series of very loving, endearing cuts that bring in a lot of twee and baroque pop sounds, with a lot of bright, exuberant performances, and songwriting that reflects on togetherness and friendship. Definitely one of the most feel-good albums of the year. With 14, we are going with Mon Laferte's Femme Fatale, with numerous vocal jazz cuts that are not only well performed, but excitedly unhinged. At 13, Little Sims gets super personal and smashes it once more with Lotus, on a range of cuts that sometimes are heartbreaking, sometimes are very tongue-in-cheek and funny. While it may not be her most ambitious record yet, instrumentally or conceptually, I do think this album showcases more emotional range than we've ever seen on a Sims record prior. At number 12, it is Model Actress with Pirouette. These guys, who at one point had a very groovy and dark no-wave sound, managed to sweeten their vibe just a little bit with some more melody and catchier choruses, while still maintaining the gothic vibes and infectious grooves that made them so special to begin with. But yeah, really nailed it on this follow-up album, and it sort of sounds like Model Actress is an act that's here to stay. At number 11, we are going with Backxwash's very mature accomplishment of a record that is Only Dust Remains, an absolutely killer and captivating rap album that shows Backxwash really processing and going over all of the trauma and dark, painful emotions that informed a lot of her heavier and more abrasive works in the past, and going more toward the light in a way on this new project, with a lot of beats and verses that are quite moving, brighter, more feel-good. It's really been incredible to watch this artistic and personal evolution over the course of numerous albums from Backxwash. Which brings us to the top 10. Let's do it! Okay, 10, we're going with Panda Bear, Sinister Grift. A record I really had to revisit because it is a super summery album, and I wasn't feeling super summery a lot of the time in 2025, truthfully, honestly, but every single time I put this album on, even if I'm not, kind of itching because I'm just not necessarily in the mood. It is actually a mood shifter for me. It is so bright, it is so groovy, it is so catchy, it is so psychedelic and wavy. Definitely my favorite Panda Bear solo record today, and I am not somebody who typically goes for Mr. Lennox's solo work. A lot of the time I find it to be too repetitive and indulgent and meandering and aimless, and while there definitely are a few well-placed moments in the track list here that are a little bit spacey, and that's cool, a majority of the cuts on this thing feel like these very bouncy and surreal, altered combinations of old vocal pop and garage rock, with a handful of reggae cuts thrown in here and there too that go over surprisingly well. But yeah, if you're looking for something that is so sweet, so serene, so intoxicating, and just straight up fun, just easygoing, casual, but kind of catchy and infectious too. Give this one a listen. At number 9, I am going with McKinley-Dixon's Magic Alive. Really jazz rap album of the year, in my opinion, with McKinley-Dixon and all the musicians that he worked with for this album, many of whom were also featured on his last record, basically showing improvements on all fronts. From the concept around death and remembering loved ones lost to the band chemistry on every single track. Also, not to mention McKinley-Dixon's literal delivery and his flows, which are more impassioned than ever. It's a record that is to the point and punchy and is going to grab you by the collar and drag you through this roller coaster for the entirety of its runtime. Following this, at number 8, it is Spelling with Portrait of My Heart. One of my favorite modern songwriters, Tia Cabral, is back with a record that shows a pretty interesting switch up, moving away from a lot of the more whimsical and dainty instrumental vibes and palettes from her last record, last album of all new original material being The Turning Wheel. Portrait of My Heart still does bring a lot of mystical energy, a lot of beautiful, catchy, soaring, witchy tunes, but this time you've got like these pumping guitars in the background. It's more of an alt-rock experience, you could say, and it's more direct for it, while still much of the time bringing in that classic spelling energy. At number 7, we have another modern fave of mine, and that is Viagra Boys, their new self-titled-ish album, Viagra Boys. This band's sense of humor, their low-down vibes, and their undeniable grooves continue to please in a new batch of tracks that explore health, physical and mental health in a, kind of weird, cultish way. At number 6, I am going with Jane Remover's Revenge Seekers. I'm not going to say mind-blowing, I'm going to say mind-frying album that brings together all of these different sounds from pop and electronic music and hip-hop and just smashes them together quite violently with mixes that are just so busy, so maxed out, so just psyche-destroying that it really just does feel like a total overload. And yet, Jane Remover's songs and choruses still shine through with pretty much every song here. Really impressive display of controlled chaos, I'll say. Moving up to number 5, we have my metal album of the year, that is Imperial Triumphant with Gold Star. These New York avant-gardists are back with their most condensed album to date. It's basically all the dizzying, insane ferocity of every one of their past albums, but reduced down to its most eventful moments, as well as a concept that revolves around capitalist dystopia and societal rot. It's a very dark, crushing album that many will not be amenable to. At number 4, I'm going to go with Guerilla Toss, You're Weird Now. Been following this band for years, have loved some of their records, have had mixed feelings on others. Their sound from album to album has really evolved and changed by leaps and bounds as well, going from bubblegum neo-psych pop with 80s guitars to danceable weird post-punk freak-out tunes to cuts that are just straight-up noise rock. The band has covered so many bases over the years, and You're Weird Now is just such a fun, colorful, overwhelming, exciting, sweet, snappy culmination of all of these things, creating a sound that honestly is difficult to pigeonhole, unless maybe you want to label this experimental alien pop funk. Regardless of what you call it, I think it's their best record to date. At number 3, we are going with what's most likely a fan favorite, that is going to be Geese Getting Killed. And in addition to that as well, I would, of course, too, like to shout out the recent Cameron Winter solo record, Heavy Metal. 2 albums that, their trajectories are really kind of tied this year, as they've both had very positive receptions and, we're kind of loved by a lot of the same people, obviously. But to speak more to this Geese album, definitely a killer record from the band with a lot of key tracks I found myself going back to again and again and again, even warming up to some songs I would have preferred maybe some clearer instrumentation on. But yeah, in my opinion, Getting Killed is not quite the barn burner that the group's previous record was. It's a little less straightforward, the performances are a little bit more chaotic, but the songs and Cameron Winter's vocals are just too goddamn good. Not to mention the closing track on this thing, I think is the best final song of any album album to drop this year. Long Island City! But yeah, I mean, Geese getting killed, it's been all the rage this year. Not sure what else I can add to the Geese discourse at this point that I haven't already through loving their last album, through enjoying Cameron Winter's album, through loving this one too. At number 2, I'm going to go with an album that I just could not put down this year, honestly, a record I could not put down. That's going to be Nourished by Time, The Passionate Ones. I found myself just idly singing so much of this album myself throughout the year, even though my first impression of this record was maybe a bit off because of how odd and murky the production occasionally sounds. But eventually I grew to warm up to just how obscure the vibes are to a degree. I mean, it's a very weird kind of bedroom pop, hypnagogic type experience. The energy, the sound of this thing is like that of a lost 90s pop and R&B demo from an artist who like never quite made it or anything like that, and you know, and then it's kind of getting reissued decades later on some kind of weird niche boutique record label that, you know, uncovers lost musical gems and that sort of thing. But that's not what this is. This is new. This is everything new from a new artist with an immense amount of talent and songwriter prowess. That would be Marcus Elliott Brown, who I think is just having an amazing run this year, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where his sound moves in the future, because this is just such a great breakout, as, again, I really think he's breathing some actual life and creativity into the bedroom pop and the indie pop scene at the moment. Which leaves us with our number 1. Feel like everyone saw this coming, but I mean, you know, a 10 out of 10 is a 10 out of 10. A flawless performance, comeback, that would be Clipse. But yeah, what else can I say? Pusha T and Malice came back with a force on this one, which, if you're talking about the best verses in hip-hop in 2025, this album contains at least 5 or 6 of them. Not to mention Pharrell, of obviously Neptune's fame, teamed back up with the boys on this one and gave them an incredible run of beats. And with his pop sensibility combined with Pusha T and Malice just lyrically not missing a beat on this one, this project, in my opinion, has just been a team up for the ages, with some great features to boot too, and a great album flow with each song reinforcing the next. But also simultaneously, nearly every cut on this thing sounds great on its own too. Whether you're putting this thing on just to kind of vibe out a little bit, or you're digging into the nitty-gritty of every single syllable coming out of Pusha T's or Malice's mouth, this album stands up to all kinds of listening and is endlessly replayable too. I mean, I couldn't stop fucking replaying the thing. But yeah, arguably one of the best comebacks of all time in rap music, and I'm going to leave it there. That is my number 1. Let me know what you thought of this list. You guys are the best. Happy 2025, moving into 2026. Transition, have you given any of these albums a listen? Maybe you heard 1 or 2 of them? If you haven't heard any of them, that's kind of crazy. But, you know, still, they're all here listed out for you. Over here next to my head is another review to check out. Video. Just a video to see with your eyes. Anthony Fantano, 2025 lists forever.